Do you believe trust, once broken, can ever be fully restored? Trust is not what you think it is
in a marriage, and that's why a lot of marriages fail, because they have an idea of what trust is, then what trust actually is shows up a little differently.
Very differently. So in Behind the Monogamy, there's a scene in season 1 where...
You mean in Monogamy? Sierra Craig Ross Jr.'s Monogamy.
Yes, but this is Behind the Monogamy. This is Behind the Monogamies.
That's true.
Okay.
So
we're already failing at the trust. He didn't trust me to get the information out, and so he had to come in and try to correct it. You already failed.
Okay. I failed at the trust.
In Craig Ross Jr.'s Monogamy, hence why you are all here. And for those who are uninitiated, it is a drama series created by yours truly, the husband and wife that creates TV shows about husband and wives. And in Craig Ross Jr.'s Monogamy, it's about 4 divorcing couples who decide to swap spouses in order to heal their marriage. Mm-hmm. That's what the show is about.
That's what the show's about.
Okay, so now that we have that, so what happens in season 1, there's a point where Carson, I'm saying it right? That's what's his character. Yep. After they go on their experiment, they come back together. So Carson and Maggie are having a conversation, and he's in the pool. And what we learn in that conversation is
that he did not sleep with his
experimental
spouse,
but
Caroline,
she did.
But his wife, Maggie, actually did sleep with her experimental spouse,
yes,
Sawyer.
And so what we are examining in this series and here in this conversation Behind the Monogamy is the idea that trust is fragile. It is not a guarantee in relationships.
So when you get married, the trust isn't guaranteed.
It has to be rebuilt. And so he has a choice at that point. Carson has a choice. He could either walk away, now knowing that his wife was intimate with her experimental spouse, or they could try to rebuild the trust together.
In which case he would have to trust again.
Yes. So yeah, exactly.
I think a lot of us, and maybe you and I included, when we get married, we think the trust is guaranteed.
Yeah.
That you don't have to reclaim that trust consistently. It's there no matter what. And on some level, that's true.
So in what ways do you feel like the trust between us has been fractured and that you've had to work to rebuild it?
For me, sometimes when I'm vulnerable and that comes back at me later in an argument that we might be having, that feels like it's weaponizing my vulnerability against me. It's difficult to be vulnerable again. I have to really, really convince myself that that's not the way you meant that. And I have to really kind of be vulnerable again, because that's what our marriage is. That's what any marriage is. But that's kind of a difficult thing to move past.
I can see that. I can see how I've done that unintentionally and in some ways intentionally. So I can see how to trust the space is there to be vulnerable can be hard, especially for a man to come, and you even come to me saying, you're my wife. I need to be able to come and say these things to you. So
Sure.
I do understand that. I think for me, unlike our characters, fortunately, the mistrust doesn't come from external forces rather. It's from internal, like you. I think for me, it's around emotional safety and capacity and presence, especially lately being married so long. I don't trust that I'm valued, that I'm cherished. I mean, I hear you say that. I mean, you tell me every day, but you don't necessarily show me. Like, I don't feel that. And it's a presence. It's not like logic or reason, but it's like an intentionality, like being intentional about flowers, or intentional about being emotionally available.
I can say that. Especially certain moments, I can definitely see how not necessarily showing up can seem like I think less about us or about you or about your well-being, your emotional well-being. It could feel like I don't think about that as much, or I don't hold as much value for that.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, and so going back to what we're talking about, which is the compelling question: do you believe trust, once broken, can ever be fully restored? And that trust can be the things that we typically think of, infidelity or financial infidelity or any one of those things, but also can be very subtle and nuanced, like the emotional strength can be fractured when your vulnerability is weaponized, or when I'm not feeling necessarily emotionally safe. Like a woman, when we feel emotionally safe, and we've talked about this, a woman will birth the world for you. And usually it comes down on its most simplistic, granular level. Like a woman is not, and that safety, has tentacles. It's financial safety, it's emotional safety, it's physical safety. But at the root of it, it's safety. And I'm wondering for a man, if the root of it is acceptance and respect.
Well, it's that too, but it's also peace. Without peace, it's very, very difficult for a man to be able to provide the emotional safety for a woman that she needs.
And I can understand that. I can see that.
I totally understand where the emotional safety comes in and
Well, at
where
the
it
root of that
needs.
is peace too. It feels
Sure.
like it's peace all the way around, because when a woman feels safe, there's peace there. When a man feels peace, there's safety there.
Right. But sometimes the communication of being flipped when it comes to, a man or a woman's perspective can be a barrier of entry to both getting what they want when they need it. We've experienced that, as you can probably tell.
Now, has there been
Right.
any situation where the trust has been fractured, not just in the soft spaces of emotionality, but in actuality out in the world?
I'm just going to say one word. Maybe it's two. And that'll be it.
What do you say?
Right now,
Yes.
I'm going to say the parking lot. And I'm going to leave it there.
We'll see. We'll see you for the next episode. Okay, bye.